Hello, everyone. My name is Mitch Jackson. Welcome to Human.Social, where I love shining a bright light on amazing people that are disrupting industries, creating positive change around the world. And that's who we have on today. We have Shirin Behzadi with us today, who happens to be a family friend, who happens to be a mover and shaker in our local community, the mom of one of my daughter's best friends, Sam Behzadi, who has been on the show, everyone. And Shirin is here today. It's so good to see you. How are you doing from Northern California?
Oh my gosh, so good to see you. My home is Southern California. It just so happens in the past few days we've been in Northern California in a one bedroom. So if you see or hear anything that's unusual, no, that's what's going on.
The life of an entrepreneur, right? You know what's
Yes.
interesting? You know what's interesting is we're all working remotely. We're working from home. We're winging it. Kids are coming in. We have lawyers appearing on court videos with cat faces, filters, right? I mean, I love this. I love this time in our lives as far as business goes. You know, my heart goes out to everybody affected by COVID and the clients of ours whose businesses have been turned upside down. And that's one reason, Shirin, I wanted to have you on today's show, because when my audience hears your journey, hears your message, listens to your story, I'm inviting everybody to share your questions live. Click the links below, share this out. Come on and ask your questions. I think they're going to have some hope. I think they're going to be given some new direction. And that's one reason before we went live, we were talking about why I'm so active right now on social, because I think we need to lift people up and wrap our digital arms around others, especially entrepreneurs in the world, and give them a hug and get them going in the right directions. But before we get started, let me give you a brief but proper introduction. So Shirin is the CEO. She's an entrepreneur, a board member. Why am I joking? Oh,
I don't know. It must be very emotional.
I'm an emotional guy. You know, I'm an emotional guy. My audience knows this. She's a CEO, entrepreneur, a board member, and business advisor. She's been recognized for her entrepreneurial success by Forbes, Money Inc., Franchise Times, and Women Entrepreneurs, The Secrets of Success blog, and many, many more. You guys can follow Shirin on social media. Today's she's busy sharing her entrepreneurial story and approaches online, on social media, on LinkedIn, using videos. You guys follow her. She's amazing. She's so impressive. And she's also an early investor and advisor for Bomani Cold Buzz, which is the first alcohol-infused cold brew coffee product introduced into the market. You guys have watched me interview her son, Sam Behzadi, who's one of the co-founders of the company, on Instagram Live. This family is impressive. They're amazing. They've made our community a better place, and that's why Shirin's on today. Shirin, why don't we get started? Why don't, you know what, before we get started, I want to invite everyone, you guys, text your questions, okay, to me, 800-661-7044. Ask your questions here on social media. Share this out, and I will do my best to bring these questions onto the show, and we'll run them by Shirin and see what she has to say. Tell us a little bit about your journey. It's amazing. It's impressive. I think it's also going to give a lot of people a lot of hope in these hard times.
Well, thank you, Mitch. First of all, thanks for everything you do. I've been following you as well, and I'm a big fan, and as well as a good friend and a family friend. So thank you. And you're right. These are times where we need to share some of our journeys with other entrepreneurs, people that are in business, because there's so much adversity out there, and there is still hope. So I'm going to give you a very brief version of my background, mostly because it's long. I am an immigrant. I immigrated into the United States when I was 17 years old. By circumstance, not by design, I was left without parents. And I had to really learn how to pay for myself, how to support myself, and how to find my way into the world beyond that, even though I had come from a very good, strong foundation with a great family. And so I started working at a gas station when I was 17 years old. And then I went to college and paid my way, got scholarships, decided that I wanted to be an accountant, a CPA. And at the time I was recruited by EY, who still remains to be a big part of my life. worked there and then became a CFO in my early 20s at a large mortgage bank, relatively large mortgage bank. Learned how to work with operations, how to create mortgage-backed securities, and then I helped negotiate selling that to a larger bank at the time when interest rates spiked quite a bit. And then I decided that I really wanted to test my muscles as to entrepreneurship. Now, if you think about it, for someone who came from my background with 17 years old, all kinds of challenges with money and really being poor, that was a scary step to take, to say, I'm just gonna try this. And so I became sort of an offsite CFO for a number of companies in Orange County. One of them was a small company that I met in 1999, and I decided that's where I was going to stay. And in that company, it was budget blinds, and we franchised home improvement products, which weren't that well known in the world at the time. You know, franchising belonged to food. It was really not about home improvement. So in a lot of ways, we had to find our way through how to best package it, how to make it a viable business. And so for the next 20 years, I stayed there. And after lots of trials and tribulations, which kind of speaks to the entrepreneurial journey, 2003-04, we started growing. And in 2013-14, we had 2 or 3, I believe 3 at the time, brands. And I really embarked on this journey of recruiting private equity, was able to secure private equity. And in 2015, I basically was the CEO of the company for the next few years, and we doubled the size of the company, having really overhauled everything, every way we went to business, and then had a successful exit in 2019. Along the way in my journey, in addition to all of the good work we did with private equity, buying, selling, and all of that, in 2009, towards the end of the year, I ended up with a difficult brain tumor. And actually, Sam, my son, who you know, was the one who came in and called 911. And it really started a very challenging time in my life when it came to health, because I had 10 hours of brain surgery that failed, and 50, altogether 15 hours of brain surgery. I had to learn how to walk and all of the rest that went with it, and I've now talked to a lot of people that have had even much worse health situations. It was a real awakening. All of this packaged together has brought me to the point that after I exited, having sold the company in 2019, I really decided that it was my turn to give back. And the way to give back, in addition to being engaged with charities, which I am, and Orange County United Way and the Cherie Blair Foundation for Women, I'm on those boards, and I'm a couple of boards of for-profits. I also thought it would make sense to get my story and the stories of others that can encourage people to know that you can achieve financial success and personal joy in the face of adversity. And you definitely can live with the motto of doing well by doing good. You can earn your way in the world by being principled, doing the right things while enjoying a lot of success. And that's my hope, is between the work that I do and the messaging, and with working with folks like you, we can get more of that and elevate everybody. One last thing is, like you mentioned, near and dear to my heart is Bomani Cold Buzz.
Yes.
So my son, who's always been an entrepreneur, has brought a lot of ideas to me over the years. But a few years ago, when he brought out this idea, I go, bingo, you're onto something. Think about it. Cold brew coffee is fast growing, and alcohol that is no sugar, no carbs is growing. You're marrying those two categories. And by the way, alcohol and coffee have always lived together. It's not that new, but you're making it into a ready to drink. And your nutritional panel that you're coming up with, which is 110 calories and all of the goodness that goes with no carbs, no sugar, and all of that, make a lot of sense. That's what people are looking for nowadays. So I became the first investor and an early investor, but I'm no dummy. I didn't invest just because he's my son. I invested because I knew this was really good business and they have a really good team together. Why that's relevant to this conversation is that we launched a new category, ready to drink, alcohol infused cold brew coffee, and a new brand 2 weeks before the lockdown.
That's crazy.
Fast forward to today, we have authorizations in multiple chains. We've shown substantial growth across any store that we participated in. And we're in multiple states. We got a lot of accolades. We've won some awards. And it wasn't easy. And it was very, very scary at times. And we were the sort of little engine that could. Because when we started this whole idea and Sam brought it to me, I said, if you want to be an entrepreneur, there are a few things you need to know, but one of them is tenacity. If you keep at it, if you promise to keep at it, you'll get there. Because problems will arise, hurdles will show up, which I couldn't predict, pandemic, but hurdles will come up. The whole point is every problem has a solution. If you haven't found the solution, you need to view the problem differently. Maybe you're not approaching the problem the right way. So kind of living with that motto and having put together a fantastic team and how great all of our team are, Sam, Amin, Kai, Dustin, and Mr. Nick, and the rest of our team, we've been able to accomplish quite a bit, which is relevant to the conversation we're having today.
Absolutely. Want to make sure I'm getting, there we go. I'm getting an echo at my end.
Oh,
sorry about that. It's my bad. I think we're good. I think it's settled down. It just needs to kind of settle down a little bit. It's interesting. Caddy Jordan, who's with the Lately AI. I don't know if you're using that platform. It's a powerful platform that allows me to share my content all over social media, tapping into the power of artificial intelligence. But she's a big fan, right? And that's good. That's right. No carbs, no sugar. Amazing. So you get jacked up and you get to relax at the same time. It's a great product, but there's so much to talk about here. And you glossed over 20 years later. Okay. I hope everyone heard that. 20 years later, that's 20 years of wins and losses and mistakes and pivots and adjustments. It's not something that happens overnight. But let's go back even further. You came over here at 17. You put yourself, you started school, you went to college, you worked in a gas station. What early experiences from that moment of time in your life helped you lay the foundation to being an entrepreneur, to having that work ethic, to not giving up? I'm sure, like with me, it was some of my early life experiences. A lot of people haven't had to go through that. And some of the challenges they're having. Thank God. Yeah, absolutely. But the glass is always half full. What did you take away from those early life experiences? Yeah,
so I'm gonna, it may sound like I'm not going back there, but I want to first talk about a recent memory because it really sets the stage of what happened then and kind of what you're asking about, what helped me become who I became. I was lucky enough to win EY's Entrepreneur of the Year award in 2018, which, as you know, is a well-regarded award. It's not easy to get. It's in an independent group that does the judging. So it was a big deal. And I was on stage accepting my award. I came down the stage and my son, Sam, said, "Mom, when you were 17 years old, you're working at a gas station, did you ever think you'd be on this stage getting that award?" And I thought for a minute and I said, yes, I did. And it's not because I thought I was going to be on stage winning EY Entrepreneur of the Year award. No. What I did know was that I expected myself to do well. I saw myself at some point doing great things in life. And I think that's what, at the end of the day, was what's guided me. And I think that's part of the reason why I always tell people, visualize. You have to have a goal, a destination. Now that destination can't be that specific, right? Because you don't know what life is going to bring to you tomorrow. You can't even plan the next 20 years, but more or less where you want to be. The road to where you want to be is going to be zigzaggy, is going to be unpredictable. You can't predict any of that. You can't even plan around it. But that goal, that image, that vision is significant. And I think that's what helped me very early on when I was 17 years old. Mitch, I even thought for some reason it came to my head that I was going to be on a cover of a magazine. And I go, what? I'm 17 and I'm working at a gas station. But I think those are the things that ultimately move us forward. And at least in my case, that's what gelled very, very significantly at that age.
So share with you. Sorry about that. So I'm getting an echo at my end, and it takes about 10 seconds to settle down. So I don't know if you hear it also, Shirin, but I'm sure our audience does. We're good now. So it's not just me, I promise. But let me ask you a question. How did you not give up? How did you have that dream or that confidence within you back when you were here, young, relatively alone, working at a gas station? Where did that come from?
That's a very good question, and it's pretty deep. I think one, I had a choice to make. Choice A would be to give up and be a victim of the circumstance, or choice B is to take it on and say, I'm going to do it. And it just luckily I chose the second one. And it is all about a real desire, having lived that vision, which, by the way, I want to point out, it's kind of a difficult, even a more difficult thing to do for women, and especially women that are, ethnic. So, but I think what I did was that I tuned everything else out. I just didn't pay attention, didn't give much weight to the ideas that I can't do, that this is going to be difficult to do, that's not, people don't expect you to do X, Y, and Z. It was more about my own desire to make myself, to help myself not only survive, but thrive. And I want to say the one thing that has always been the underlying theme in all of this is, because I had those struggles, because I knew what it was like to not have, it really shifted something in my mind that I was going to always do my best to do right by others. That I was going to stay focused on how difficult it is. I could have just as easily gone the other way. Things could have just as easily gone a lot worse for me, and they didn't. So I'm grateful for that, but I'm also aware of it. That's part of the reason I think throughout my career, I was very in tune with my teams, with when we put people in businesses, to really care about how they consume the information we give them to make sure they're as successful as they want to be.
I asked that question, and I've never shared this with anyone online before, but I'm going to share it right now with you. And can you hear me okay? Shirin, can you hear me? Okay. And it's interesting. When I moved from Tucson, Arizona, after graduating from the University of Arizona, I moved up to Lake Tahoe and kind of started my own life. I could have stayed in Tucson, where my family was pretty well known in town. I had lots of job opportunities after school, but it just wasn't for me. I wanted a change. And I remember moving to Lake Tahoe to help open up Caesar's Tahoe. And that first night there, I realized, what am I doing? I'm someplace where I don't know anybody. I'm doing something I was afraid, right? And I remember like breaking down and crying, right? I was alone, sharing a bedroom with someone, sharing a house with someone who I had met 2 years earlier when I went up there for the summer, for a summer job. And I just remember, like, what am I doing? This is just so hard. I'm afraid. Am I making the right decision? But deep down inside, I knew it was the right decision to keep pushing myself and to do something different than what my friends were doing back home. I don't know, what gave me the courage to move, what motivated me to move. I just knew it was the right thing. And that's why I asked you that question. I didn't know if it was early life experiences, if it was something you learned from family members, but I do see a similar quality in a lot of successful entrepreneurs. And so I wanted to share that during the show, because I want people to know they're not alone. And especially when you're starting your journey, sometimes it's hard. Sometimes you doubt yourself, right?
Oh my gosh, it's so hard for sure.
Yeah.
And how great of you to have taken that chance. That's not an easy thing to do, to decide to make that. I do come from a background where my dad was an entrepreneur, so maybe that's a part of it. I've seen
Sure.
it. Yeah.
Sorry about that. I'm just muting your mic when I'm speaking, at least for the first 10 seconds. Yeah, I think, growing up and watching how other people do things, it does give you ideas, it plants seeds. Maybe it gives you permission to give yourself permission to take that next step. Let's fast forward to what's going on in today's world. Companies coming around and adjusting to COVID-19 challenges, dealing with teams and employees, startups like Bomani, that started up, a couple of weeks before COVID hit. What are some things that you've watched and observed over the last year that you can share with us moving forward in 2021 when it comes to, starting companies, maybe philosophy, maybe dealing with our team members, maybe it's marketing and branding? I'm sure there's some things that, based upon your years of experience, you can share with us moving forward to give us a little bit of confidence in the products and services we're rolling out, and especially for some existing companies that are having challenges, that are pivoting, bringing their products and services into the cloud. I mean, there's a lot going on right now. But I think when we look back in our experiences, especially those of us that have been in business, we have a pretty good handle on what we need to do moving forward.
That's a very good question, and it's so broad. There's so many factors that go into it. You and I can sit here and talk all day, but just to pick up some of the probably most significant challenges and how to deal with them. I've always thought that in business, there are specific principles that apply, regardless of the size of the business. Whether you're a small business or a large business, there are some fundamental principles that apply. And they do apply here, except this whole pandemic definitely turned things on their head, right? It's not that predictable as it used to be. So we need to go back and stick to what we believe work, and be open to, of course, adjusting to those things as the world has changed, expectations has changed, everything's gone online, to your point. Some of the things that we use at Bomani is, well, of course, we rolled it out and the pandemic hit. And every way you get the consumer to understand a new product when it's a beverage was shut down. You can't have people sample the product. You can't have events. You couldn't go to restaurants and promote the product. So how do you do it? And I think the first thing that happens at times like this to most business owners is that they're, especially if you're medium size, you're not that large yet, or small, you oftentimes freeze. Your first reaction is to say, I don't know what's going on. Everything's changed. Everything's upside down. It's doom and gloom. I would say give that 5 minutes and marinate in it, and do say, it's not great. This is not what I expected. This is not what I want. And then roll up your sleeves and say, and now what do I do? And now what do I do? You have to be realistic. I always say what's faced can be fixed. So if you don't face that this is here to stay, and you have this dream of things turning around in a week or two, then of course you're not going to address it. You've got to take a couple of steps back. You've got to really understand and face reality of what's coming your way. So with Bomani, we faced that this may be something that would be the state of affairs for the next year or two. So if we're going to just sit around and wait for things to open back up, we're in trouble. So how do we get attention to the product? And of course, much like a lot of other people, you start going online, you start using tools that are more available, like social media and so on, to help pivot the messaging to the consumer. And of course, you have to be sensitive to the consumer and what they're dealing with. So I think first and foremost, you have to take action steps. But of course, anytime you take action steps in business, you've got to make sure they're measured and you've adjusted for risk. So that's the one thing that has happened, and I think applies to no matter what hurdles your business goes through. What you face, you can fix. The other thing is that you've got to then start readjusting your goals. So for any business, I hope, any kind of business that you have to have very specific plans. You create monthly plans, you create annual plans, kind of like the vision that you have for yourself. You have to have a vision for the company as well that you break down to measurable steps. Well, when things aren't going too well, those measurable steps have to be even shorter term. You've got to stay so much more focused, because the whole idea of pivoting is if it's not going in the right direction, you've got to find other ways of getting there. So again, what we did with Bomani is that we said, okay, we had these goals. Where are those goals today? What could be realistic with today's environment? And let's break it down to steps that we can take on a weekly basis. And the whole team was in it. And so speaking of teams, Mitch, I think you just mentioned that as part of this question is how do you deal with your teams and so on. I think at times where there's so much more uncertainty and people are dealing with all of this, it's unsettling with so many people have been impacted. You have to always show care for your teams, but at times like this, you have to elevate that care. I always say that your job as a leader is to be genuinely, keenly interested in what your team's capabilities are, what their desires are, what they can and cannot do. And I want to say at times like what we're going through and we've been through, I think all of that needs to be heightened, elevated, and more. You've got to become more sensitive to it. Why that matters is that then you'll hear from them where things are going well or not going well. And if your ultimate goal is to making sure that your business thrives, you do need your team's not only alignment with where the company is going to go, but their commitment, their passion, because things are clunky and difficult. So I want to say some of the big chunky things that we've done, and I think have been the reasons that we not only survived, but we thrived in 2020 are some of these steps.
I love that. I love the point you made about being proactive and pivoting and keeping, to face your challenges, but to keep moving forward. I think that's so important, and that's something that I've always been taught to do. We're talking about that in one of my masterminds about just embracing what's going on. Deal with it. Maybe it's time to pop a Bomani, and chill out for 5 or 10 minutes, right? You deal with it, but then push everything aside and keep moving forward with solutions and with helping. And it is easier said than done, though. I think there comes, it can be a grind. There's a lot of work behind it, but I think also with the business environment we're in today, I think with that comes some opportunities. And one of many reasons I wanted to have you on today is what I've noticed is, in addition to everything we've already talked about, you have really elevated your brand using social media to help others, to share advice, to share your years of wisdom, to motivate entrepreneurs to move forward, to do the things you're talking about today. Talk to us a little bit about this social media brand or journey that you're slowly expanding out, how people can connect with you on social media, and what's the game plan behind that?
You said something about how difficult things are and not easy. We talk about take action steps, but it's not easy to do. And it reminds me of my personal experience when I had my very challenging health issues. I had a brain tumor that was life-threatening, and I had no alternatives. It had lodged between my optic nerves and had grown tentacles around a bunch of arteries. And so I had no option but surgery, and there was no guarantee that I would even come out of it. But certainly the biggest risk was that I was going to wake up, if I were to wake up, blind. And went through that. The surgery somewhat failed, and I had to go through more of that. So the recovery became really challenging because now I had 15 hours of surgery, months of not well. And the way I dealt with that is to, one, be kind, of course, to yourself, because that's something very difficult to go through. But then I one day decided I'm just going to take it literally one step at a time. Take one step, go lie down, wake up again, take two more steps. And with using that, I remember the first time I went upstairs on the stairs, when I made it to the very top, you would think I had climbed Mount Everest. It was such an accomplishment. And of course, 9 months later, I was full on working out and everything, so the reason why that's significant is that it's hard to remember, but it's good to remind ourselves it is literally sometimes about taking one step at a time. If we want to go way too fast, and it may just trip over ourselves. We may have pushed ourselves too hard, and that may actually result in failure. And so when I embarked on this journey, the reason why I embarked on this journey is, unlike you, Mitch, I'm not that great at I wasn't that great at social media. You're so good. You're definitely an expert, and one I would love to follow and learn from. But it was really through the lockdown that a friend of mine texted me and said, can you just do a video of yourself and put it online? Because I'm stressed out. It would be great for someone to say, be okay. It'll be okay. And I thought, why not? So that's what it started. It was like, is there a way to get the voice out there in sound bites to just say, you'll be okay. There are things that you can do. You can do it. Others have done it. And by the way, you can do it sometimes means if you own a business, maybe you don't want to continue with that business. I'm not saying you've got to stick with what you're doing. It doesn't matter. If you want to paint and make that your thing, you can do it. But the point of it is just to be a voice out there without any expectation. So I'm not doing this because I'm selling anything, nothing wrong with that, but I'm not doing any of it. I'm purely doing it because I think some of us who have had challenges and things that haven't gone quite well in our lives, and have been able to make it through adversity, somehow I feel like we owe it to the rest of the world to say, listen, it could happen, and we made it, and it's not just me. There are a whole community of people that have made it through adversity. So that's my idea. It's my hope to be able to get that message out there, but also that it's important for me to stay with doing well by doing good. Because I think, as you've noticed, Mitch, as you experience in your life, you can be very, very successful, but you don't have to give up your principles of being a good, solid human being to doing right by others. In fact, I think if you stay with your principles, you're going to do even better. So that's my hope. What I'm trying to do is to just get more of that out there, to get the conversations going around how you can be financially successful, do enjoy, have your personal joys in the way that's doing good in the world. I can be found on LinkedIn, obviously, and on Instagram. Those are the two places, and hopefully more to come.
I love that. In the last 10 minutes or so, do you mind if I run some questions by you, kind of like in a fast-paced Q&A? Is that okay with you?
As long as they're easy.
I wouldn't give you a hard question. These are easy, especially when you've got the experience that you've got. And I think there's a couple of questions here I'm paraphrasing that were texted in. And, how did you, the illness you mentioned, the challenge, Mount Everest, walking up the stairs, how did you continue working in the business you were working in, or being an entrepreneur while you were under the weather, while you were dealing with this really, life-changing challenge? What are some tricks that other entrepreneurs can put to use to keep their businesses running when they're not feeling well?
What a good question. I actually was back then, this is 2009, 2010, we didn't have as much in the way of Zooms and all the ways of communicating, but I pretty quickly, a few weeks after my second surgery, I was online and laptop and so on doing my work. One, because I had a sense of commitment. I believed that people relied on me, and it was my responsibility to do right by them, kind of sticking with the same principle. One thing, though, I try to remember, and I think it was significant in my recovery, is that I remained kind to myself. I remained focused on the idea that I've got to make sure that I don't push it too hard so it backfires, because it does. Your body will tell you, you've got enough. So the way I kept going was, one, I was passionate about helping others, and that's what I thought a part of my job was. And two, the sense of responsibility. And lastly, I actually think having something to look forward to, projects and things that help you focus beyond just, I'm not feeling well, was helpful.
I love that. Great. Wait, excuse me. I'm just muting. When I mute, then we don't get the backlash here. Great answer. I appreciate that, because I think people are experiencing challenges right now, where COVID-19 related health reasons, or they're working from home. They can't communicate with other team members. They're not set up the way they should be using Zoom and other applications like a lot of us are. That has just been a game-changing experience in moving businesses forward. Another line of questions we have here are, what are some secrets to hiring that first employee, bringing in that first team member, reaching out to a partner in a new business? What are qualities that you look for in employees, team members, co-owners, people contributing capital to your new business, that you think maybe don't necessarily jump out at you from a resume or a CV? What are some other things that you look at when you're doing business with someone else? It's a great question.
Very good question. I actually have to say, in the way of background, I've learned over time, I've actually said no to capital infusion. And who says that? Because I just didn't like the people, you know? And I've learned in the past 20 some years, there have been some frogs we've kissed, and that was not a good way to go. And I've learned. In order to be able to, in my opinion, find the right team members, employees, partners, capital partners, you have to first have your understanding of your own principles. What are your core values? You've got to define them, and you've got to be true to them. Then you have to have solid core values. And then you've got to be understanding that if whoever is coming your way, whether it's a partner or it's a supplier or a manufacturer or an employee, that don't match your core principles, they may be perfectly fine people. They're just not going to be the right fit for you. So, I think it's important, by the way, you've got to define core principles for your company, for your business too, because those things all matter. They're not just fluff. They're not just to make you feel good. They should actually act as filters for who you allow into your life.
I love that. I love that. You know, you've seen probably what I've been posting for the past 4 years on social media, and I share these things because they're part of my core values. It's how I believe. It's why I became an attorney, and I sleep well at night. Even if I alienate 20, 30, 40% of my audience, I'm at the point where I don't care, because I'm bringing in 10 times more people into my audience who align with my values, my interests, my passions. And I think once entrepreneurs give themselves permission to do that, they start finding success faster. Okay, here's another question which I want the answer to also, and that is building out your brand on social media. What topics will you be discussing moving forward in 2021? What's your favorite social media platform? And do you enjoy video? Do you enjoy audio? Do you enjoy writing on social media? Tell us a little bit more about how we can all stay connected with you moving forward in 2021, and what type of content can we expect to see?
It's very much related to what we just talked about, having core principles. So I've asked myself, I actually took the time before I even started this journey, and I said, what am I good at? What do I know? If there's going to be some sharing, what is it that would be of any value sharing? Then I bounced it off of a group of people. I had about 15 people that I asked them, kind of like a mini survey of, what do you want to hear? What do you think I would be good at? And it kind of crystallized to something that really spoke to me. I think what I'm good at is financial success. So, I've shown it over and over again that that's a possibility. But financial success as coupled with personal joy, because, oftentimes you hear of people that reach some kind of a financial success and look back and say, but I didn't enjoy my life. So how do you accomplish financial success and personal joy? But here's the kicker: in the face of adversity. Because if you were to find a common theme in my life, it's always been adversity. For some reason, something's always been a little bit more of a challenge than most. It hasn't been an easy life. And I thought the messaging that you hopefully can get out there is anybody can accomplish financial success and personal joy in the face of adversity. And adversity is different things to different people. So we're not all made the same. But of course, living on this chassis of you've got to do good in the world. You can only do well if you do good in the world. My idea is to continue to build on that, give people hints, tools, ideas to achieve financial success and personal joy, even if there is adversity or not. Most of where I lean towards, what I'm most comfortable with, is speaking. So it's most likely going to be a lot more video and speaking, though I understand people consume information differently. There'll be some writings as well. And what else did you ask for? What platforms? For now, we are on LinkedIn and Instagram, but who knows where it's going to take us.
I, for one, would love to see you start a weekly live video show just like this. I can see it right now, where you bring in other entrepreneurs, you bring in friends that can share specific success tips in moving forward. I think people would really like it, especially when I look at some of the questions that I'm getting and some of the comments that I'm getting. We have people joining us from all over the world, just so you know, Shirin. So this is really, really cool. Why don't we wrap things up with Bomani? Talk to us a little bit about Bomani, about what the plans are for 2021. Where can we get Bomani? What are you looking at doing with helping expand the Bomani brand moving forward in 2021? What are some things that maybe we need to know or would like to know, or maybe pull back the curtain, a little insider tip that hasn't been discussed before on behalf of Bomani for 2021?
Yes. Well, first of all, drinkbomani.com is a great place to go. We're also on all kinds of social media platforms. Bomani embodies everything we talked about. The team has got together, and if you look at the website, you'll learn that it's all about having purpose. We've, throughout our organization and the way we organize ourselves and the way we go about promoting the product, it's all about having really strong ethical standards and principles. That's part of the reason why our product has the nutritional panel that it does. Our coffee is ethically sourced. It's 5.7% alcohol. We have, as you can tell, amazing branding. Only 110 calories. It gives folks a little bit of a kick because it has coffee in it. So rather than having any chemicals that would be an upper, we have coffee that's an upper. And the alcohol itself has zero sugar, zero carbs. It gives you in a can, ready to drink. You can drink it as is. It's great for brunches, for when you're having an outing, anytime you want to drink, but you don't want to be feeling slowed down. And it doesn't weigh on you. It's healthy, considering that it's compared to alcoholic beverages, it's healthier because it's got more natural ingredients in it. But you can drink it out of the can, though you can also, as you can see from these images, it lends itself to a lot of different kinds of cocktails. It goes well with ice cream as affogato. I mean, there are many ways that Bomani works. You can drink it on ice. You can add cream to it. It's just a new way of enjoying your coffee and alcohol that's ready and easy and relevant. And today, we believe that Bomani has an amazing place in the marketplace. You've heard of a lot of great new products that have come out with seltzers and spirits and so on. They're all wonderful. And the beauty of Bomani is that it's unique. Nobody else has alcohol-infused cold brew coffee. And nobody else has our nutritional panel. But it works with other drinks. You can start your evening with a couple of Bomanis and then lean into something else. The alcohol is not that high as far as percentage is concerned. So what our plan is, we believe anybody and everybody and I see someone from Australia, you got this, anybody and everybody in all of the United States and beyond can and will enjoy Bomani. We have an amazing plan for 2021. Listen, we rolled out in 2020 right before COVID hit. And here we are, we're in multiple states and people are enjoying Bomani everywhere. If you go on the website, you can find the store nearest to you, but if we're not yet near you, you can also order online. So there are ways of getting Bomani to you that we believe at the end of the day, we'll see 2021 steep growth for Bomani to getting it to people. And beyond that, continue to own the market. I just want to add one thing is having been a founding investor, being that this is effectively family business because it's my son and his really good friends who are just as near and dear to me as they can possibly be, we're going to continue to focus on doing good. We are already making some contributions, and we're going to make sure that we are going to stay true to our principles to bring goodness to people while trying to do good in the world. Mitch, can you hear me? I can't hear you.
Oh my goodness. I was saying so many wise things, everybody. So listen, you can hear me now, right? All right. So Shirin, I just wanted everyone to know I had my mic muted. And that's what live video is all about, right? There's some things going on and we just kind of have to wing it. You've got a lot of fans from all over the world that have basically said, thank you for being on today's show. That's what I wanted you to hear. I want everyone to stay connected with Shirin and go out and grab some Bomani. I love it after a long run, you guys, especially at the end of the day, because it kind of wakes me up a little bit and it also chills me out when I turn on the news. And most of the news today isn't that great to watch. So it's always good to have a Bomani in your hand. And we've got a couple of final comments here before we sign out. Yes, I am muted. People are letting me know from all over the world that I was muted. And but Shirin, this was super fun. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to join us today on Human.Social. You're welcome back anytime. Give everybody in the family a big hug from not only me, but everyone at Team Jackson. And I hope you know we're always here for you. So thank you for being with us today. Bye-bye, everybody.